If you're anything like me, you read multiple genres, and I lean into something that I like to call dark fiction. It's this umbrella of thriller, horror, dark fantasy, hard fictional reads that really linger, that provoke me, that make me feel something deeply. And for Q2 of this year, I've got a stack of books that delivers on all three. And these are books that stood out to me, not just because I liked the stories, but because they gave me something to really chew on long after I close the book. So let's dive into my favorite dark fiction reads from the quarter that I think you should add to your list. The Vegetarian by Han Kang just took a swan dive into obsession, control, and this emotional starvation that comes from being surrounded by people that claim to care about you, that are supposed to care about you, but really just want to dominate. And we follow a female main character whose decision to stop eating meat is treated like madness by her family. But the real horror to me was how her family responded to her commitment, not with concern, but with punishment and repulsion and neglect. The biggest thing that stood out to me with this book is nourishment. It was a metaphor that made sense to me. She's been deprived her whole life of real support and quietly surviving in this loveless marriage. While I love an ambiguous ending, this was a little bit too open ended for me, but I still thought it was a very thought provoking book, deeply uncomfortable, definitely unforgettable. When I finished Wake Up and Open Your Eyes, I thought, what in the satirical fever dream hell did I just read? It was violent, sharp, absolutely unhinged, and somehow hilarious. But beneath all of that chaos, I thought it had some teeth. It really looks at privilege and performative morality and just this kind of rotting core of America. And I could see this book making half of America very angry. For me, it was completely unputdownable. It was bonkers. It was brilliant. The King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby was messy in the best way. It had constant action, impossible choices, some family dynamics. And even though I find myself drifting away from thrillers as a genre, I am still sticking with crime thrillers where regular people get pulled into chaos and they spiral trying to fix it. And that's exactly what this is. The stakes here were personal with the characters. The tension was relentless for me, and I felt that the characters felt relatably flawed. In a synopsis of the synopsis, is that it follows siblings trying to untangle the addict's little brother from all of his messes. And it reminded me why I preferred that kind of gritty working class thriller over the rich people behaving badly. So this one might be my favorite S.A. Cosby read yet because I have no notes. And I still need to work through his catalog, but this one's my favorite so far. This is not the first time that I've talked about Small Mercies by Dennis Lehane on this channel, and it probably won't be the last. This book is set during the Boston school integration crisis, and it follows a bigot named Mary Pat. She's a working class mother searching for her missing daughter, and she's also reckoning with her own community's racism. Now, what made this book shine for me is Dennis Lehane does not ask you to forgive such a flawed character. He makes you sit in that discomfort and you're still rooting for her. It's more about loyalty and betrayal and that moment that you find out your community turns its back on you for asking the wrong questions. It's tense, it's very more morally complex, and for me, it was haunting. It is a must read for all readers, in my opinion. So let's get into The Church Beneath the Roots by Felix Blackwell. This is the Stolen Tongues prequel. It is set on a Native American reservation where we've got these two factions, one holding on to their cultural traditions and those kind of assimilated into Christianity, and they face this supernatural threat that neither side can prepare for. Now, the horror aspect of this story wasn't just about what happens in the stories, it was how it works on these characters, their minds, their beliefs, and their histories. We've got themes of cultural erasure, we've got survival, obviously, that runs deep. And it's just this irony that the very knowledge that part of this community is trying to erase or forget becomes the key to fighting back. So I thought that this was a powerful, layered story, and I was pleasantly surprised by this. So if you have read Stolen Tongues and you enjoyed it, you're going to love this. I know Giovanni's Room is not considered a horror or a thriller or dark fantasy, but it's still a quiet and devastating classic about identity and repression and that kind of emotional toll of hiding your true self. And I thought that Baldwin's characters really captures that ache between where we are and who we think we should be. And our main character here just kind of floated through this story wearing these masks and judging other people who dared to live their life out loud in a way that he couldn't. And I thought that this story was messy. It had contradictory love, it had codependency, and just being drawn to what terrifies you and sabotaging yourself and those around you just to keep up appearances that no one even cares that you maintain. I thought maybe the first third of this book I wasn't going to enjoy it that much. I kind of feel that way about classics sometimes, but once I really sunk my teeth into this one, I couldn't let up. And I think this is a dark, emotional read, and I think it's a must. Let the Right One In went way beyond blood and fangs. It is about a lonely boy, a vampire child, and the horrors that people inflict on each other. There's some heavy, heavy content warnings in this, so please check them. It is disturbing, it is slow, it is atmospheric, it is unforgettable. My Nightmares and Novels Horror Fable book club read this one, and a few people had to tap out. It was just that dark. So if you are a new horror reader, you might want to pass on this one. But if you're a seasoned horror reader and you're not afraid to go to those dark corners, this is a must. The cover caught my eye, but this is probably going to be one of my top 10 reads of the year, Hours by Phillip Williams. This is an ambitious and memorable character driven story, and it's rooted in conjure traditions, and it's a mix of historical fiction and magical realism. We've got identity, grief, abandonment, and what it really means to be free. That's the biggest theme here. And the intimacy here was really emotional vulnerability. And I thought that it was just handled beautifully. Now, I will say the writing is descriptive to the point of slowing down the pace a little bit, but you have to read it to sink emotionally deep into how these characters are feeling. And at the time of publishing, Philip B. Williams taught creative writing in a Master of Fine Arts program, and it shows some of the most beautiful but still reachable prose. So let's tip back to horror. Let's go with the novella The Vessel by Adam Nevill. And this was a horror redemption arc for me because I DNF'd this book last year, but I just couldn't stop thinking about it. So I tried it again, and I'm so glad that I did. It's a quiet horror. It's this eerie atmosphere. It has a lot of themes of trauma, a little bit of grief, and this kind of unseen evil simmering just kind of under the surface. Or I'd say behind the scenes. If you were watching a movie, it would just be you noticing the shadow moved just a little bit behind you. That's the kind of under the surface feeling that I mean. I enjoyed where this story ended up going. I never would have guessed that this would have been how it ended. So if you can hang with it, it's not that long of a read. If you have the patience for it, I definitely think it's worth it. Mary Monroe has a very large catalog, and we're going to talk about Mrs. Wiggins today. This is a historical thriller. Well, that's what I call it. But it is definitely a genre bender that defies that urban fiction bookstore and library placement that I would probably find this. And it follows a woman in a lavender marriage whose life is upended when her husband decides that he wants out of that marriage. She becomes a woman who will do anything to find and protect her new peace now that she doesn't have the protection of marriage from a judgmental and gossipy community. So I enjoyed this one. It was a lot darker, a lot higher stakes than I expected it to be, and it was absolutely a page turner for me. Those are my favorite dark fiction reads from Q2. If you've read any of these, I'd love to know your thoughts on them. And if you have any recommendations that you think would fit into that dark fiction umbrella, please drop them in the comments. I've got my Q3 reading well underway, so make sure you are subscribed if you want more in depth breakdowns like this. I will see you next time.